Sup guys, this is Phoenix, and currently I'm flying Heinkel 100, which, depending on your opinion, is either the best or the worst plane of tier 1 and actually low tier in general. So, the best or the worst? Listen to me and you will find out. Alright, so as usual I will start with flight performance, to be exact the weaponry. So, we have 3 rather crappy machine guns on this, as you can see when I fire. 2 of them are installed in the roots of the wings, whereas the third one is installed centrally through the engine, which is something that you can see on Messerschmitt's 109 and at least some Focke-Wulfs as well as many Russian fighters, all those yaks. Those are the same type of machine guns that we have on other low-tier German fighters. That is that MG15 or 17 or whatever garbage with 7.92 millimeters in caliber. So it has the same performance as on those other planes that I have covered so far, which is they are pretty accurate. In this plane's case, there's no real issue to bother with convergence because they are more or less centrally mounted. The accuracy is high, the power is low, the belts are not great, but at least you have 500 rounds per each gun, so 1,500 in total. The muzzle velocity is pretty high, which helps with accuracy. The rate of fire, as I said, is also very high. Well, of course this means that they will eventually jam. As you can see, the red circle is slowly filling. But I think you can fire a good 500 rounds in this plane before they jump, at least when it's fully upgraded, which it is. And yeah, overall it's better than 109 and Heinkel 51, for example, because we have 1 additional machine gun. Unfortunately, however, this doesn't really do much, because in the first place this is a very weak machine gun. It will still do very well in RRB, because there are many biplanes. We are at 1.3 or 1.7. I think this one is 1.7, probably. We'll see it later for sure. But just like with other planes, other fighters that are equipped with this machine gun, it really sucks against bombers and attackers, and it honestly extremely sucks against anything that has turrets, or for that matter anything that's shooting at you, but we will talk about it in a few seconds. First I have to mention that there is no payload, no turrets, no other crap like this, so those 3 machine guns are your only weaponry that you have available to you. Alright, so survivability. And boy oh boy, this is the reason why I said that it could be the weakest plane of tier 1. Well, take a look at this on X-ray and look at all those places. Alright, this will be a bit tricky. Okay, maybe like this and this. Come on, I can... wait, will this out? Let me... Nope. Oh crap, I cannot... My... fingers are too short. Alright, I somehow managed. Okay, look at this. This, and probably something that we can also see from below but not from above. Those are all either oil tanks, water tanks, or fuel tanks. So any hit in those places and it's GG for you. Add to this that the fuel tanks aren't self-sealing, and that even in spite of all those coolants being all around the whole construction, we still overheat. This is what makes this plane really a fussy bitch. Let's be clear. Also, I forgot to check, but I'm pretty sure that we don't have any armor on it. Even if we do, it's really inconsequential with all those weak points. Yeah, Okay, actually there are no weak points on this plane. This plane is a weak point. This is honestly how you have to look at it. Therefore, just don't get hit. And this is why I'm telling you that you are really weak against bombers, because they just need to shoot with their turret a few times at you, and they just need to score one lucky hit anywhere around the plane. Wings, the fuselage behind the pilot, even those the fuselage here in the tail. Everywhere there's some coolant or fuel tank. It's really crazy. I have no idea what kind of madman, I don't know, maybe genius was it who made this plane. Yeah, so this is unfortunate truth about it. It really is fragile. However, there are also some great strengths to it, which make it quite a polarized construction. But now it's time to mention the rip speed. So 820 km per hour is the rip speed of your wings, which means that you can really dive hard in this one. And 320 is the landing gear, so you won't rip it easily. Yeah, this plane has crazy speed performance in tier 1, enough to call it speed demon. But we'll get to it, well, actually right now, because speed is next. I have already covered survivability as much as needed. So yeah, so acceleration on this plane is fairly good, and yeah, just look at it. I'm not even flying. Okay, now throttle 100. We are flying at speeds that are something that other tier 1 planes have to sweat and bleed to achieve without diving. And we are not even anywhere remotely close to the maximum speed, because the maximum speed of this vehicle is an overwhelming, I think, 640 kilometers per hour, somewhere around that, well over 600. And we are not even weaping now, because yes, this plane has wartime emergency power function as well. Now, I'm not sure about the stall speeds. We have to check it out in a moment. Alright, so we are below 170 still. Okay, so the stall speed is relatively high for a tier 1 fighter. It was somewhere around 150 kilometers per hour, right? Now let's check out how it works with landing flaps deployed. The flaps are fairly large on this one. Alright, so yeah, so landing flaps at quite a bit actually. It was somewhere around 130 km per hour that we started flying, so quite decent. Yeah, so energy retention is life in this plane, in a good sense. It's a very good energy retention fighter. Well, energy fighter is a more proper name, I suppose. And it, at least for tier 1, it has excellent properties in this regard. And it can retain energy well in horizontal, relatively well in turns. Well, this is the bleed that we would get at just over 200 km per hour in other German tier 1 fighters, right? And in vertical, well, this plane climbs very well. It has a very good climb rate for a German low tier plane, as you can see here. So the energy, and just look at this, what kind of angle I'm using to climb, and at what kind of altitude. It really is excellent in that regard as well. So yeah, if it can climb at this rate, then it's clear that the vertical energy retention also doesn't fall far behind. Yeah, just look at this acceleration. Like at tier 1, it's godlike. Alright, let's take a moment and we'll see that energy retention in vertical. Yeah, it's very good. You can tell by how slowly the speed declines. Alright. So next, regarding the engine performance versus altitude, I can only tell you that it is one of the best performing tier 1 planes at high altitudes. To be frank, I haven't really noticed any difference between different altitudes when it comes to engine performance, but I will admit that I haven't really checked. It might be better at high altitude, but not necessarily worse at low altitude. Yeah, regarding manual engine controls, they are available. You can use propeller pitch, but just like with other German engines, you shouldn't really do it. We cannot change any gears, there's no mixture. There's a radiator, which is very good news. There's no oil radiator, but we have a normal one. Just again, yeah, it's probably this thing here, below the wings in the center, just behind the landing gear. Which is very good news, because this plane overheats as hell. It's really one of its major weaknesses. You basically cannot WEP, and usually have to fly at throttle below 100%. Something 90-odd% should cut it, like 95. Regarding fuel, as you can see, you don't have to take some ridiculous amounts of it, and you won't ever need more than 20 minutes, I would say. So that's enough said. We cannot unfortunately see fuel consumption here in test flight, but you will be able to see it later in the battle. So now let's talk about agility. Well, now we are at 5 kilometers, so which is good and bad, because it's good because you can now see the agility at this sort of altitude, and you will be able to see it later how it changes when I fly down. But I wouldn't really like to start with it, but okay. As you can see, the roll rate is okay. It's not really great, but it's very decent. I mean, there are better contenders at tier 1, but it's decent. The ability to turn is fairly good, especially if you add flaps. I mean, not nearly enough compared to biplanes. Compared to biplanes, it's just garbage, but with this sort of speed and energy retention and altitude performance that this plane has, you don't really have to worry about the biplanes. Your machine guns are sufficient to deal with them as well. Another problem is the rudder, unfortunately. No, actually, it's not that much. War Thunder Wiki lied to me, those bastards. Maybe it was outdated information. Anyway, it's pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really see any problems with it in mouse mode. Yeah, and the other numbers that you have seen me paste here later are flap rip speeds, so they are very decent. Combat flaps and takeoffs take almost 500 km per hour to rip them, and landing flaps can endure close to 300 km per hour, which is very decent. Those flaps also deploy faster than on 109, as you can see. They still take some time, but it's not bad by any means. Right. So as you can see, even though we are flying at 5 kilometers, a distance that would give a Russian fighter a heart attack, we can still remain fairly agile here. Now we will see how agility is influenced firstly by speed from the dive, and secondly by altitude when we compare the performance after diving. Yeah, other than that, there are no additional features that would improve agility or actually anything at all. So yeah, let's reach that yeah, see, close to 800 kilometers per hour, and only now do I get trouble with almost ripping. Alright, as you can see, there is some problem with roll rate at this speed. You can turn fairly well at around 600 kilometers per hour. There is some trouble. Yeah, the agility does suffer a bit, but not that much compared to what we saw up there. Yeah, so the one last thing that remains is, let's compare the agility at this altitude. Yeah, the roll rate seems to be fairly similar, actually maybe a bit worse, but we'll see at lower speeds in a moment. The turn rate remains fairly the same. Actually, I think it's somewhat better. Yeah, how about rudder? The rudder seems to have the same performance. Yeah, so roll rate, kind of hard to tell. Now let's try to use a roll with flaps out. The roll rate seems to be a bit unstable, kind of imbalanced. Sometimes it rolls better, sometimes it rolls worse. Alright, but that's pretty much it regarding flight performance. It's now time to jump into a battle. However, I will still have a quick look at armor. Okay, so we do have a bit of armor behind the pilot, and the engine in front will also protect the pilot somewhat. But we don't have any armored glass, and with all those, see, oil cooling, oil cooling, oil cooling, oil cooling, liquid, 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 liquid. This is crazy. Fuel tank, not self-sealing. That's why I say that this plane has more weak points than it has anything else, basically. Therefore, yeah, it's really fragile. Alright, so see you in the battle. Alright guys, now we are in battle. First, a short round of corrections and let's say supplements to what I have already said. First, as you can see, minimum fuel load is as low as 15 minutes, which maybe will suffice actually, especially since when you lower the throttle, you will burn less fuel and you have to lower the throttle somewhat on this plane because it overheats so badly. Secondly, the max speed is 670 kilometers per hour, so close to 700 kilometers. 700 kilometers per hour was actually the goal of this design. Yeah, as I have forgotten to mention max altitude, which you can see here, it's pretty good. At the very least, at this tier, nothing comes close. Ooh. Hey, that was against my will. Yeah, so I didn't manage to mention the third and last thing, which is the belts, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they are the same as on 109 and Heinkel 51, for example. Alright, so to properly make use of Heinkel, I will climb. And this will be good in the sense that I will have a lot of time to talk about its history, and you will also see how much better it climbs compared to fellow fighters here. Well, okay guys, good job, I suppose. Yeah, so now let's talk about the history of this plane. Alright, but first, yeah, as you can see, the fuel consumption with Webb is more than 1 second in 1 second, so to say. But it's not particularly fast. There are planes with much faster consumption. Yeah, so basically this plane was designed in the second half of the 30s. I'm not exactly sure in which exact year, but it was after 1935 when Heinkel 112 lost to Bf 109, and Ernst Heinkel, who was the guy after whom Heinkel took its name, the boss of the company, he said, well, 109 had quite an edge over biplanes, now it's my turn to make a plane that is just as epically superior to Bf 109. And that's what he set about doing. Günther brothers were also involved, to be exact. Firstly, or initially, it was one of them, but later he died in a car crash in 1937, and the other brother took over and finished the design. But this is also a hint that the plane was in somewhat advanced stage of development in 1937, so perhaps the design was already completed in the 30s, in year 36. Alright, I think this is pretty much enough of climbing. I suppose I can go and engage those guys. I'm surprised this gladiator actually climbed this much, but now it's time to gather some speed and use that against him. I will leave those guys here to those friendlies of mine. They should be able to manage. Or I would be surprised if they died in this fight. Anyway, so one way or another, the plane took its first flight in 1938. Well, I think it was in either June or January. I know because I just looked over it. Actually, I tried to ask Aria, that is Opera's version of GPT. Was that the exact sequence of letters there? In what year this plane was designed, but it said that it was in 1939, so boys, don't rely on that deceitful AI. Anyway, so it took flight in 38, but unfortunately German military rejected this fighter. They basically said, okay, Heinkel, cool story bro, but we want Messerschmitt to build fighters and Heinkel to build bombers. In other words, just as in that meme, know your place, trash, and make bombers. Whew. Yeah, you know what, this is funny. I think I was a bit too cocky. Alright, so in such situations make sure that you avoid being hit with all those cooling systems. Yeah, so in the end around 12 or 25 Heinkels were built, but they weren't introduced into service. Some of them were used as factory defense units by Heinkel. They kept like a dozen or so of fighters for that purpose, but at the time there were still no Allied bombings. Actually, there were no Allied bombings at all. Well, this guy is using stealth bots. Alright, let's use some proper energy fighting tactics against him. Unless he manages to hit me first, of course. So I got a dodge. Yeah, this gladiator, I'm surprised he has quite a climb rate. Thought it was garbage. Alright. Let's zoom climb. And hope... Okay, actually, it seems like I have no other choice but to use that radiator fully open. Problem is that this is a desert, so the temperatures get even worse. Alright, I'm afraid that radiator is not really helping. Yeah, so much for the advantage the speed of this plane gives me, right? Yeah, so as I was saying, the plane was rejected. It only replaced Heinkel's 112 that defended the factory. However, there were some foreign customers that were pretty interested. Whoa. Scored a bit of a hit on me, and my oil is overheating. It's blinking. Right. If it wasn't a biplane, then I would go vertical here. But the biplane has really low stall speed, so I can't really count on it. So, yeah, there are two foreign delegations that came to visit Heinkel, namely Japanese and Soviet, because Soviets until 1941 were buddies with the Nazis. Yeah, so they were bad guys until. Alright, let's turn. Again. So those two delegations came. They looked around, they were quite interested. Soviets were interested in the experimental surface air cooling system, which was installed in this plane. So all those cooling things, that was what they wanted, so they bought several prototypes and used them against sorry, use them to develop their own planes of similar kind. Okay, I will show you how crappy it's against bombers. Making use of this opportunity. Is my team almost dead? It is actually. Yeah, so they bought several prototypes, and also Japanese used several bought several prototypes. At least 3 planes which they were supposed to be used as examples for mass production, but there's some airfield defense there. Alright, guys, here. Let's try to sneak up on that gladiator with my engine off. Oh, I think he noticed. But let's see if he will react. One way or another, I have a crushing speed advantage over here. I don't really think I will be able to do it, but let's see. Alright, actually was. I have noticed this earlier up there, but this guy doesn't really have a good situational awareness. What, this guy? This guy has more speed than I thought. Alright, let's use my landing flaps. Yeah, see? Random hit and my water is leaking. Well, that guy's stall speed is not what I can match. Alright, I've made a tactical mistake here. I should have just sped away instead of trying to go into vertical at him. I underestimated that guy. Yeah, so to finish, the Japanese wanted to produce this plane, but it was impossible for force majeure reasons. However, if you take a look at it, it is quite similar to He-61. Look at this here, and then look at this thing here. Not this one. What the hell? Okay. No, I had no idea that I pocketed it together. See, the silhouette is kind of similar, right? Yeah, so this was basically the end of Heinkel 100. It was only used in one more form, that is, it was used to film some propaganda with Heinkel 113, which was a German propaganda fighter, a fake plane, to scare allies. And there's one interesting thing about this, actually, because this plane, Heinkel 100, was initially supposed to be designated as Heinkel 113, but Ernst Heinkel thought that it was a super unlucky number and apparently fought a lot to prevent it. Yeah, so this plane actually was promising to be a much better escort fighter than Bf-110, but there are some allegations that it was never adopted into service because of some political maneuvers of its opponents, that is Messerschmitt. Alright, so be right back in another battle. Alright guys, we are in another battle. So, now let's talk about RRB and this plane's performance in it. So, as usual, I'll start with META. So META is, well, it really depends on how you look at it. It depends also on your skill with this plane and energy fighters in general. The good news is that there are no biplanes, so you won't be out-turned as easily, albeit there will be still a few monoplanes that will very easily outturn you. The bad news is that there are no biplanes, or at least fewer biplanes, so it will be harder to find slow sitting ducks for you to pick on. Yeah, so generally you're faster than most monoplanes that you will encounter here, but sometimes an occasional one that will be able to keep up with you somewhat, especially in the American tree, will appear. Again, there are going to be a few biplanes every now and then. And now I'm being suicidal by attacking a bomber. Alright, I won't take any more risks. Whew. Lucky this only hit my wing and not my cooling. So as I was saying, the meta is pretty positive. Oh, see, sometimes something will climb to your altitude. It's a biplane this time. Let's climb some more. Actually, let's just focus on accumulating speed now. If you have down tier, then you will face more biplanes. If you have up tier, then you will face more monoplanes. Speaking of it, this plane is very up-tierable. It's probably the most resistant plane to up-tiers in history of RRB. This is because you can... Well, lucky that I wasn't hit. Alright, I'm not fighting this guy. He's way more maneuverable than me. And I can't get hit either. So as I was saying, you can jump into a squad with someone with tier 3 planes, and Heinkel 100 will do no problem when it comes to dealing with the enemies at those tiers. So like 4.0 for something, Heinkel 100 can take them on in terms of performance. It's just that it's very fragile and has very weak weaponry. So those weaknesses are going to be problematic when encountering higher tier planes. Next, so for harder enemies, there are going basically to be two kinds. First, biplanes, sorry, not biplanes, but bombers and attackers, because they are very difficult to kill. And secondly, any plane that will get close enough to get a shot at you. And this unfortunately also includes the turrets on attackers and bombers. And this is because, as I explained earlier, this plane is very fragile, very easy to damage, especially all those cooling elements in your fuselage everywhere. They are very, very easy to damage. And once they are damaged, then you will be forced to return to base. I'm not sure if it was in the previous part I recorded, since I recorded it yesterday, or if it was in a part that I deleted later. But one time... okay, let me see. Come on, alt! Yeah, once I got hit into one of those places, and it popped all my oil or all my water. So any damage is very dangerous to you, and you cannot afford to take it. I think this is gonna fight me with his turret. I'm not sure, did Avenger had the second gunner on the bottom? I feel like it did. Or was it Helldiver that did? We'll see, I'll take a risk. Well, the AA is going to be big trouble, but again, I'll try to... Yeah, this guy deployed flaps. Whoa, fire is coming. Time to dodge. Yeah, see, we got some crit, but he more or less shrugged off my fire without much trouble. Alright. Come on. Shooter thing. Ooh, lucky. Now let's scoot off from here. From all the AAs. Alright, so there's 3 guys still alive somewhere. Let's dodge that they fire just in case. Don't want to get hit. Right, so there's some Nimrod somewhere. Let's track it down and hunt it down. Yeah, so that will be it for hard enemies. Advanced tactics, well, just fly like an energy fighter that it is. Generally abuse its speed, abuse its energy fighting capability, abuse its altitude performance, as in high altitude performance, and do your best to avoid any and all enemy fire, because anything can quickly destroy you. So that's the kind of plane it is. If you are good, it's the best at tier 1 hands down. and probably the best for another tier 2. But if you suck at using it, then I'm sorry, but you are going to be bested a lot. Mainly by taking damage to your cooling areas. Alright, gotcha. Yeah, see, with some carefulness and yet some aggressiveness, with some skill, 4 kills, absolutely no problem. Alright, I will jump into one more quick battle while I talk about the remaining issues. Alright guys, now it's time to wrap things up. So, first a quick word about Ground RB, and the word is just don't bother. Spare yourself the trouble, do yourself a favor, and don't waste your time. I mean, you have seen on my other videos, if you have watched them of course, how this machine gun MG17 was it? Performs against ground targets. Yeah, it's just crap. At best you can just destroy some trucks and open top vehicles, which is nothing. So the addition of a third machine gun doesn't really change the fact that it's crap. So 3 times crap is just triple crap. Again, don't bother. There's no payload, and the worst thing is this is a very fragile plane, so any random machine gun fire from the ground is enough to send you packing. I mean, you won't die right away, because what will happen to you will be that you will get an oil leak or a water leak, and then it will still take you, I think, a good minute. Lol, B-17 chasing B-5N2. That's funny. Yeah, but I kind of understand that B-5N2 because he has no forward shooting machine guns, only a single gunner. Yeah, anyway. Don't bother with this plane in Ground RB. I mean, there is only one purpose that it could play there, and that is to take down enemy planes, especially fighters with payload. Some attackers maybe, but I wouldn't really count too much on it. Alright, I'll give this guy a scar and focus on this I-15. Oh wait, this guy it seems like he's not even gonna take a risk. Then I'll focus on the other guy that's high up, F3F, another biplane. This time American. Yeah, so this plane is really not good for Ground RB, unless in the interceptor role, in which case you want to fly high, far from any ground fire, and sneak up on enemy planes. Stay fast, don't get shot, don't get caught unawares by some plane, and you will be able to somewhat survive for a while. Oh, it survived, alright. Alright, let's see if I can get that I-15. I think he's running away from me, probably. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Shit! That was really random, the way this guy's plane just wobbled. But okay, it doesn't matter. May it be a warning for you all playing with this plane that precisely because it's so fast, it's very easy to fly into a very slow, crappy biplane when you take it down by diving on it, flying very fast. What was I flying at? I think like 600 km per hour. So yeah. Yeah, so this was the Ground RB piece. Now let's talk about the economy. So the actual SL modifier is 30%. I have a 30% booster that I activated because it was running out. So I thought, why not? As you can see, the RP modifier is the same as on other tier 1 planes, where I suppose there are a few with higher modifier, mostly attackers. I don't think any fighter has higher, sorry. And yeah, so Heinkel He-112, for example, is the same as a modifier. Reaper is very similar. there's really nothing special about the economy of this plane. Yeah, but this also means that if you up tier it with a squad, then don't do this to earn money, because you won't, unless you want to get some god mode or something. That would be the only chance to earn some money, but it wouldn't be too much. Yeah, so is this plane worth your time? That depends. This is also where I will answer clearly the question of best or bested. So basically, there are basically three types of, okay, let's say 4 types of circumstances according to your profile. 2 per RRB and 2 per ground RB. So firstly, in RRB, you can either be a beginner or an intermediate kind of player, or you can be a player who's actually good with energy fighters, like really good, enough to use various energy fighting maneuvers. So in the former case, I would say that you shouldn't really bother too much with it, because you don't need to unlock it, you can just skip to rank 2. And in the second case, you can play it, you can have some fun with it. As long as you have enough skill to fly this plane, it really is fun to play. It's great for seal clubbing at tier 1. And you can easily seal club with it in tier 2. And rank 3 is also not beyond your means. I suppose rank 4, as in lower rank 4, that's below 5.3, you can still seal, maybe not seal club with it, but you can still be competitive. So as for Grand RB, again, there are 2 cases that I have outlined in the last battle. So firstly, you either use it to attack ground targets, or secondly, you use it exclusively to intercept enemy planes. In the former case, never ever bother. However, if you want to use it for the latter purpose, then by all means, but this is provided that you are good enough at using energy fighters. So as long as you are not good at using energy fighters, then be it RB or ground RB, don't bother. So the last thing regarding the order of modifications, what you want to upgrade first is indisputably radiator. You need it to cool the plane better. Otherwise, honestly, it doesn't really matter as much. You can focus on engine upgrades, but it isn't really necessary because you are going to rule tier 1 anyway, whether with or without them. Or you can focus on armament first to make it more bearable, to make it more useful, because when stock it will be, well, just look at this weapon spread at 500 meters is pretty large without this upgrade, which means that you will only be accurate up close. Though then again, this machine gun is pretty crap more than 300 meters away, so I suppose it doesn't really matter as much. What you want to upgrade third is these 2 upgrades, because they give more or less the most change in specs. As for well, I suppose this one actually gives more than airframe. And this is the last. This is crap, you don't really need it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it regarding Heinkel 100. Thank you guys for watching, and until the next time.